I show businesses how to talk about themselves, which sounds like a fairly standard thing to do. All of us have to do it because we have to sell what we do, and we know how we can help people, but how we relate that to them becomes extremely important. And all of us are going to be able to relate to this. Your business and what you do is 100% important to you. Everything, every bit of it, what you do is important to you. But the reality is only about 5% of that actually matters to your audience. And that's the part that is so hard to find. When it comes time to tell the world what you do, it's always from your context. And if you know everything and they only need to know 5%, finding that 5% can be a real hard time. So what I do is provide businesses with an outside perspective, what their audience sees in their message and how they talk about what they do and present what they do, and show them how to clarify it and create an architecture, an order of information that aligns with your audience so that they're following you along the way following along with you the way you want them to. So a simple example of what I'm talking about. Let's take a famous author like Stephen King, who writes a 400-page horror novel that is invariably going to become a movie at some point, like he does. He knows 400 pages of information. For him to write the 3 paragraphs that go on the inside flap of that book cover, he can't do it. If he knows everything, how is he going to find the 3 paragraphs out of all of that character development, out of all of those scenes, environments? How are they going to distill it down to that? So that is why people need that perspective, because if they know everything, extracting what they need to say becomes really challenging. We're programmed to think in terms of services and benefits. I know what I can do to help a business. I know what that means to that business. But now I have to communicate it to them. And that's where it gets interesting. Here's a thought to set everything up for you. There's no business without show business, meaning no matter what business you're in, you're playing a role. This isn't real life when we're in business. None of you would talk or think the way you do during this call if you're in your personal life or just reading a book or listening to music or having dinner. It changes you. Think about it. There are roles. There are you got roles, you've got costumes, you've got directors and producers, you've got sets, you've got props, you've got everything that goes into a Broadway show that goes into business. But what that creates is an environment of talking like business. So we use words like ideate, we use words like synergize, we use words like KPI. That's my favorite. If Johnny Pollock and I go out one day, he's on this call. If he and I go out one day after work and grab a drink and said, Johnny, it's Thursday, got to run, I got to pick up my son. Hey, listen, what are your KPIs this weekend? Johnny would look at me like I'm insane. I would say, what are you doing this weekend? But in business, we need those terms. We need acronyms. We need ways to talk about it that makes it feel like business. The problem is our audience doesn't understand any of that. Our audience recognizes one of 3 things, or remembers, one of 3 things. You got to be first, best, or different. And those are the only 3 things that an audience remembers. And being first or best is obviously a tall order. That's, say, 1% of the opportunity. But different, every business can do. And it all comes down to the idea of thinking that you need to appear different to your audience and have them perceive your solution the right way. That's what different looks like. It doesn't mean you have to dress like a clown and dance around with a sign because you're different. It means that your audience needs to see that as different. Let's say you're looking for a public relations firm. You're going to go to Google. You're going to type in public relations firm and you're going to get all these results. 50 results comes up in under 1/10 of a second. And all you have to do is move the mouse back and forth a little bit to the back button and the next result. You're effectively you are effectively operating in like 5 to 7 second increments. You're seeing the top of the website. If it resonates, you read below, but you've only wasted another half a second hitting the back button. Okay. That sort of sets the scene for how we search for something. Nope, that's not it. That's not, oh, this is intriguing. If I'm searching PR firm and the first 5 results that I look at all say we're a PR firm, they've effectively hit the bottom level of my expectations because that's what I put in Google. But imagine the difference if the next one I click on says, you've got writer's block, we'll help you find the words to get your news out. We're a PR firm. They look completely different in that time of searching. Everybody else is saying we're a PR firm, here's our services. This firm decided to attach itself to why I need a PR firm. They looked at my motivation to my need state and said, here's your challenge. And it resonated with me because I can't write my own news. That's the simple insight. People can't write in flowing terms about themselves. And a business writing about itself, again, they know everything. So how are they going to put the right release out if they have to write it themselves? That PR firm knew that when they wrote their website. That was the first thing I saw. I read down because it said, yeah, that does sound like me. And that's how I figured out, okay, yes, this is the right one for me, or at least they have the services I want, but they didn't hit me with, yep, you're in the right place. We're a PR firm. So they looked different. And that's what different can look like. It doesn't have to be a huge demonstration of graphic style or anything like that. It's just, how does your audience perceive it? If we think about how we create our businesses, it always starts with a vision. And the vision usually has something in there about what problem do I solve for my audience or for my customer. Then you get to work building from the vision. You've got your mission statement, you've got your core values, you've got your brand essence and your strategy, and you've got your products and services. But that's not how your audience will perceive it, because you're thinking like a business again, and you're thinking in terms of, okay, here's what I can do for them. And I figured out how to solve their problem. But if you can't relate that solution to them, then it doesn't matter that you have the solution. If they can't follow along, if they're not attached to it, and you can't bring them through the right way. And that's what it comes down to, is we are always talking to human beings, to people, whether it's B2B, SaaS, I don't care if you mow lawns or walk dogs for a living. The people who are receiving information about your business in any capacity are human beings, and they think like human beings. They think in terms of order of information that they need. If you show me slide 6, I need to see slides 1 through 5 first to understand slide 6. And that's the way that we have to treat our audiences as people. So imagine this. You are at the library and it's reading day, and you've got a bunch of 5-year-olds sitting on the floor in front of you, and you're going to read them a book. You are not going to sit, open the book, and just read it and not show the kids the pictures because they're 5. You're going to turn the book around. You're going to say, look at the cow jumping over the moon. Do you see it? But the motivation for doing it is so that you can turn to the next page. You need to make sure that these 5-year-olds are following along with the story. So you're making sure they're engaged visually. You're explaining the words to them in the context of the picture. So you could see this. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah. Now you can turn the page. If you're turning the page before your audience is ready, they're not following along the way you want them to. You're going to be left wondering, how come they don't see the benefits of this? And that's because you know what you can do, but you've missed the opportunity to connect with them. And you've missed the opportunity to bring them through what you offer in the right order. So today, what I want to talk about is how I approach this and how I look at everything as a conversation using the idea of the elevator pitch. Now, there can't possibly be anybody on this call who doesn't know that term. And historically or traditionally, it's meant to indicate if you get on an elevator and somebody asks you what you do, how do you explain to them in, say, 10 to 30 seconds? So everyone may be familiar with this from networking groups. I'm sure in this, at some point, you've had to get in this group, you've had to go through and talk about what you do at some point. And at that point, you're left with a decision. One, you tell me, if I say, what do you do? And let's go back to the public relations example. What do you do? Oh, I run a public relations firm, and we My brain, whether I want it to or not, is going to shut off after public relations firm, because that's all I'm going to remember. I'm 49 years old. There's not enough room up here for stuff anymore. I don't remember things verbatim. I don't remember, nobody does. They remember bits and pieces and triggers because that's how the human brain works. So if I start out saying I'm in a public relation, I run a public relations firm, I may as well stop there and say, so what do you do? Because that person is effectively has all the information they're going to need. And I haven't really given them any reason to stand out. I run a PR firm. The other angle that people will take is the I help response, which is like Mad Libs for, fill in the blanks for story brand, where it starts with I help and it's I help business X going through challenge Z, accomplish goal A by delivering service X to deliver better. And it's 10 seconds of almost a run on sentence, and I don't know what to listen to. That's not memorable either. The way to look at it is, how do you create a conversation about what you do on their terms, predicated on the questions they're going to ask? So if I were to say to you guys just the question side of a what do you do conversation. So what do you do? Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Okay, so how do you help them? Well, how does that work? And what do you provide to them in that? What do they get out of it? Do you have any proof to back it up? Do you have any case studies or anybody I could talk to? Yeah, okay, I'll take your card. You've covered a lot of territory if you can answer those questions, because that's the sequence of questions that somebody would ask. They need to know the most general to the most specific, and that's how they're going to ask questions. If you're out of the gate saying, here's all my services, they're not there yet because you've answered a question out of order. That first floor of that elevator, my elevator is 8 floors, goes up 8 floors. And the first floor of that elevator has one goal: get you to say, tell me more. That's my only worry on the first floor. If I run a PR firm, I want to say something that's going to get you to say, well, that's interesting. So what if you asked me, okay, what do you do? And I said, I make news when it matters most. Now you're left wondering. I could be a reporter. I could be a celebrity in the gossip column. You don't know yet is the challenge, right? So you need to know more if I say it that way. And as soon as you say, tell me more, my elevator's off and running to the second floor. My second floor is who I help and what they're going through. Businesses can't write about themselves. They can't do it because they know everything, and they can't write in flowing terms about themselves because neither can human beings. It's really hard to do. And you need that outside perspective. It effectively creates a lack of ability to find the words you want. You have writer's block. So how do you help them? Now I'm on my third floor, a simple way to state my solution. I get them out of writer's block, find the words they can't, and make their news impact the way it have the impact that they need it to have. Well, how do you do that? That's my fourth floor. Now I'm up to my process. Think of a simple 3-step way that shows anybody I'm talking to, from when they work with me to when it ends, what they experience. Well, it's quite simple, really. First, we dive into what's blocking you. We look at the news you need to share and what's standing in the way, and who we're talking to and what they need to understand. Step 1 is discovery. Step 2, we develop the plan. We create the right strategy for your message, for your news, to put it out there with these touch points. Step 3, we deploy. Discover, develop, deploy. Deploy is launching it, making sure it works, test and learn, whatever, support you along the way. But now it's showing you 3 steps: discover, develop, deploy, that I'm going to understand and remember because it's simple. Now, what do I get out of that? What services do you provide? On the 5th floor, it actually hangs from those 3 steps. In the first step, what are they going to experience is your services. In the second step, what they're going to experience is your services. And in the third, same thing. So imagine walking into a McDonald's and looking at a menu and choosing off that menu, versus today for your appetizer, you'll be having this. And for your main course, you'll be having this. And for dessert, you'll be having this. The services are almost secondary if they understand the process and how you're going to help them, because they're not looking for a specific service. They're looking for help getting their news out and getting out of writer's block. So if you're able to show them in a 3-step process what that looks like, it answers a lot of questions and gets them to a comfort level that you want them at when you're talking with them about this stuff. Services leads to what do I get out of it? What's better for me afterwards? Those are benefits, and that becomes the 6th floor. After going through this process, this is how you're better off, and it relates to their challenge back on the 2nd floor. So it explains to them, see, this is where you were and this is where you are now. 7th floor, do you have anything to back it up, to prove it? These are 3 types of proof. One is social proof, testimonials, people who have worked with you and shared their experience. 2 is empirical proof, scientific proof. Think of it that way. It is a case study. Here's the challenge. Here's the solution. Here's the output results measurement of that solution. It almost is like a scientific process. And then 3rd is experiential proof, your story and what you bring, why you're doing what you're doing, what the motivation is, what qualifies you. All of that works to validate floors 1 through 6. If you were to lead with all of those claims, it just sounds like you're talking about how great you are. But if you do that on the 7th floor, after you've explained your solution and your process and what you offer and how it helps them, what it looks like is, see, this is why I can do what I can do. And it proves it to them. And that's the importance of closing that final step. If they could see that it works, and they know, they see it from the outside, oh yeah, this is okay, you did that for this person and you have this experience, that's validation in their mind. Finally, you're at the top floor, the 8th floor, call to action. What do you want them to do next? And it could be continuing the conversation, it could be driving them to social media, it could be a free offer, like take this free survey and see if you need our help. But all of those things they are now primed for, because you've connected with them on the 1st floor and brought them through the information that they need to know. Again, like an FAQ page, the most general question, the most specific is how a frequently asked questions page works. That's how the human mind works too. If we skip ahead, we lose them. And if we lose them, we never feel different to them. We never appear different. We never are memorable at that point, because they don't get it. They're not following along the way we want them to. We could have the best idea in the world, but if we can't lead them to it, it's just like those 5-year-olds and turning the page before they're ready. So that's the idea, is creating a conversation on that elevator that speaks to your audience in a way that they need to hear it and in the order they need to hear it. It's about sentiment and order of information. More often than not, with the clients I work with, all the right things to say are there. They're quite often just in the wrong order. And I'll look at their website and be able to see that, where they're not leading their audience through on their audience's terms. They're driving it on their terms. And again, that's the issue of being in your own business. I'm telling you, the hardest thing in the world is talking about yourself and figuring it out, because you know everything. You know, you have to deal with, you're the C-suite for your business. You're the CEO, CMO, COO. You have to worry about accounting, insurance, taxes. Okay, that's one side of it. Then you have to worry about the actual product, branding it, marketing it. Then you have to worry about selling it. And oh yeah, you have to do the work. If you can't get your audience to follow along, the work is a lot heavier on your shoulders. And that's ultimately the ability to communicate with your audience and talk about yourself in one way across any platform. I don't care if it's your website, sales presentation, or what you say on a networking pitch. All of it should be the same. All of it should be one way to talk about yourself. And every business has assets similar to a human being, 2 assets in particular that you need to be able to use to work with your audience and communicate with them the right way. Every business has a personality and an attitude. And a personality, much like a human being's, doesn't change. You are who you are when you got here. That's actually a lyric from a Jay-Z track, hip hop track. But the idea being, you can't change who you are. The personality of your business isn't going to change. And I'll use an example for this of bungee jumping. Let's say you run a bungee jumping company somewhere, bridge jumping, where you tie a rubber band basically to people's ankles and throw them off a bridge so they could get some exhilaration and just bounce there for a while. You are in the extreme experience action sports exhilaration business. That's your personality. Meaning you're not running tea parties, inviting people there, and then all of a sudden unexpectedly pushing them off the bridge with a rubber band tied to their ankles. People know what they're getting into if they're going bungee jumping. You can't change that. So your personality is a constant, but your attitude is a variable. You could flex that like a muscle. And it's a simple way of thinking about things, but attitude is the only thing we have control over. It's 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. But attitude is a projectional tool for our businesses. If you project the wrong attitude about what you do, people don't see it as natural, right? That becomes a challenge. If your attitude is real jocular and macho and yeah, I do this, and you run into somebody who's nothing like that, they're not going to feel the same way you want them to because you're projecting your attitude onto them in the wrong way. The right way would be, okay, you need to sell more. Here's a way to go about it. Not be a man, we're going to sell. Because that's only going to talk to a certain percentage of your audience. It doesn't talk to everybody. An attitude can be very specific and have a very big impact on someone. For instance, let's go back to the bungee jumping example. I could come out of the gate saying, hey, team manager, this is the trust fall on steroids. This is the ultimate team building experience. Your team comes here and takes this leap together, and afterwards they are stronger, tighter bond, better operating team. That's an attitudinal projection. That's an attitude I can share about the personality of my business and what they're going to get out of it. Or I can say, bungee jump to the extreme, Mountain Dew. You got to do it. It's a rush. Exact same personality, but my projection is different. And I'm talking to an audience in that case where it's people looking for a thrill. Different than the team leader, different than the team building, but the same product, the same experience. That's the importance of understanding who you are as a business, your personality, and how you're going to talk to your audience. That has a huge effect on your audience because if they're talked to in a way that they can relate to, they're much more apt to listen. You've been in conversations where it's one-sided. You've been in conversations where people are talking way over your head. And you're just sort of, oh, yeah, that's nice. You can't get away with that in business. Oh, yeah, that's nice. I don't really understand, but I'm being polite isn't going to get anywhere. That's not a good response to get. They need to be crystal clear on what you're doing. And that point of who you are and how you choose to speak to them becomes really important. If they're in a very empathetic state and you come at them with humor, you've missed the mark. But those are attitudes. Those are not your business. Think of a great example in the United States is auto insurance. And there are companies, tons of companies that sell auto insurance, like Progressive and Geico and Allstate and all these different companies. And back in the early 2000s, they all had a very specific archetype they wanted to represent. Meaning you had, say, Liberty Mutual was one of the companies, and it even sounds stodgy and conservative and old sort of traditional. It was banker collars, Windsor knots, really buttoned up. And then there were others that had different representations, but for them, it was like the authority figure, and we're going to tell you how to do it. That's who they wanted to embody. Then along came Geico, this insurance company Geico, who turned it into 15 minutes to save 15% on your auto insurance. So easy a caveman can do it. And they used humor. They were the jester, like the court jester was the archetype they embraced. But they represented humor. All of a sudden, Every other agency found themselves back on their heels because they were busy being the sage, the hero, the creator, all of these archetypes of what they want their brand to represent to people. And here comes Geico, who turns auto insurance into a commodity. And look, you need it, so let's just make fun of it. Let's just be funny about it. Now, fast forward 18, 19 years, there's not one auto insurance company in the US that isn't using humor to drive that save money on auto insurance. They're all responding to the fact that the people who buy auto insurance don't want to, but they'll get a kick out of a commercial. And if it only takes 15 minutes and it's funny, it's memorable. People talk about the commercials. It became almost like social media content for the company. But now let's go back to this company, Liberty Mutual. Liberty Mutual Insurance, remember, starch collar, banker, starch banker collar, wins or not, very, very buttoned up. If you Google Liberty Mutual commercials now, their spokesperson is like this 70s detective cop character and his sidekick, Limu the Emu, literally an emu, and Doug. And it's this ridiculous concept of this guy and this bird going around saving people money. That was the evolution of what their customers wanted to see, of what their audience wanted to see. They didn't want to see stodgy, almost like old school bankers. What they wanted to see was, yep, we got you in 15 minutes, and here's the bird and Doug to tell you about it. It is an unbelievable evolution from a company perspective in terms of how they represent themselves to the outside world. But all the pressure came from competitors, obviously, but what people wanted to see. They have all the control. All they have to do is search Google. The days of people saying, you need what I have because it's on radio or TV or print, like newspaper, those are gone. Amazon came along and destroyed brand power over the consumer simply by introducing customer reviews and ratings. Now, if a brand tells me you need what I have, I can say, well, you got 3.75 star ratings, and these 6,000 people seem to have a mixed review on if you're any good or not. But your competitor right below you has 5 stars and everybody's raving about it. That's a problem for brands. They have to respond to consumer sentiment now. And that example I gave you about car insurance is exactly what that looks like. It's, oh, that's not what they're listening to anymore. So we completely have to pivot and change who we are. And brands do it all the time because consumers are making the call. So for your businesses, your consumer is governing everything. Your audience is governing everything. If they don't understand how you can help them, you've got a serious problem. And it's as easy as them understanding. It's as easy as them following along with your story in the library when you're reading to them and getting that permission to go to the next page simply by understanding how they think and what they need to know next. So that's what I've turned my business into, is working mainly with small businesses and entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, on how to create that one way to talk about what you do. And the importance of it is incredible. Think about all the times you'll have an issue down the road. You're going to say, I need a new website, it's not converting, or I'm not getting a great response on my email campaign, or my sales pitch is failing, or I don't really meet too many people in networking because I don't feel like I'm, saying anything memorable. All of that comes from the fact that it's your business and you're trying to plug holes in a dam because you can't see the whole dam. That's the challenge. You know everything. So that outside perspective is about building a dam that's not going to spring the leaks, and being able to explain to your audience in any circumstance, written, on video, in person, whatever, being able to explain to them what you do effectively on their terms makes an incredible difference on communication with them, and you'll see the impact. So that's my long half-hour spiel for first thing in the morning. But what I would love to do, if all of you are open for it, is Q&A is fine. Any questions you have, anything you want to know, I'd love to talk about it. But the other thing I'd love to know is, what do you guys do? And what would be the response to your question if I were to say, so what do you do for a living? And what we'll do is talk about your response. and see if I can add a little bit of context for you, a little bit of perspective for you, even on your own business right now. So, Ollie, if that sounds good to you,
that's brilliant. So, I'm in Harry's seat. I'm gonna pick out Gary initially.
Oh no!
And Gary Gary can talk about startup to stand up.
Oh, good, better.
That's annoying because throughout that whole talk, I was thinking about my other company on what I was going to change and what I was going to say. So that's good because he's put me on the spot. So what do you want? Just the highlight of what Startup to Stand Up does?
What do you do? Tell me about what you do.
Startup to Stand Up helps entrepreneurs and founders, which I know I shouldn't be saying entrepreneurs because that's probably
no self-critique. No self-critique, so, Gary.
Entrepreneurs and founders go through their startup experience.
Great. So if we think about in the context of Startup to Stand Up, what is the challenge that they need you for is first, right? So we help them go through the startup phase, but what are the challenges they're going to face? For instance, the startup phase is let's use a restaurant as an example. The typical statistic for a restaurant is only 1 in 10 make it through the first year. Mm-hmm. And the challenge there usually has to do with starting up, getting the credibility, the efficiencies, everything, getting the crowd, all of that, right? The challenge that we have when we're starting up our businesses is we know what we know. All right. I have history in marketing and advertising and brand management. I know what I know. If I decide to get into the business of a plumber, I'm going to become a plumber. There's a lot of stuff I'm not going to know because that's not what I did for a living. Maybe I know how to fix a pipe, but that doesn't mean I know how the entire water system works. That doesn't mean I know exactly how to work with the customers. That there are a lot of things I'm not going to know. All of us getting into the startup mode, we start with a vision. I have a great idea. And there's not one person who doesn't start that way. It's 100% driven by vision. The problem is the second you start your business, that 100% starts to get eroded for things like I need a logo, or I need an email campaign, or I need funding. All of these things start to erode at your vision. So to me, Gary, Gary, what Startup to Stand Up represents is, yes, you're helping them through the startup phase, but really what you're doing is providing a shepherding service, like a Sherpa service over the startup mountain. Because once you crest that peak, if you do it right, it's all nice, easy skiing from there down the other side. So think about the mountain of entrepreneurship, the mountain of starting a business, and your success. Your vision's at the bottom, your success is at the top. All of us get stuck on that mountain.
Mike, that's brilliant. Can I use that? Startup to Stand Up is providing a Sherpa service over the startup mountain. Get onto our IP lawyer today, Gary. Yeah.
Well,
we've got to register that. Right, I'm looking for volunteers. Who wants to offer up to Mike?
I saw Julie's hand first.
Julie, and then Lawrence.
Okay, love being put in the spot. So my name's Julie, and I'm the founder and campaigner of the multi-award winning brand Secret Whispers. We are the dumbbell for your pelvic floor. We get women leak-free and a better pelvic floor in 90 days or less.
I honestly don't know how to respond to the term dumbbell for your pelvic floor. I own that. With that every time. What do? I make basically a weightlifting regimen for your pelvis.
Yeah. So it's a pelvic floor exercise kit, little weights, little dumbbell for your pelvic floor.
But you didn't come out and say it's a little kit. What you did was a lot, even if it literally is dumbbells. You've aligned with the idea of working out your pelvic floor, which is immediately jarring to people. It's like a gym. It's like a gym for your pelvis.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm speechless. That's awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Like when I say to somebody, I show you how to talk about yourself, and then I explain what I do, it is exactly what I just said. And what is it, 6 words, 5 words? Like dumbbells for your pelvic floor is really straight away simple. They're like, what? Yes, literally a gym for your pelvic floor. Like,
Yeah.
that's a great entry point alone.
So you're
Now
happy
I feel
with that?
stupid.
No.
Now I feel dumb.
No, but
I can't
is
even
it
help
good?
you.
Is it clear
No.
enough though? No.
Well, as long as if you lead with a workout for your pelvis, the next thing you want to explain is why it's necessary. That's the only thing that's missing. So I'm wildly intrigued by the idea of dumbbells for my pelvis, but why the hell would I need them? So if you're able to add that into, like, that's the next thing they see, sort of as your second floor of that elevator.
Yeah.
Dumbbells for your pelvis, a workout for your pelvis, is a great connection point, because people are going to wonder about that. They don't think about working out their pelvis. They think about working out muscles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So explaining why would be the next thing.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Have we got time for one more, Mike?
Oh, I'm here for another 20 minutes as far as I'm concerned. Whatever you want to do.
Perfect. Perfect. So, Lawrence?
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Lawrence.
So a bit of a squeeze in the elevator, but so my company that I run with my partners, we change business owners' lives, albeit through helping them claim research and development tax relief here in the UK and getting them back between 1/4 and 1/3 of their eligible costs, and our fees are charged under a retrospective fee structure.
Love it. So any business is going to run on money coming in, top line, and profit, bottom line, is going to be how much you cannot spend.
Mm-hmm.
There's my, I don't have an MBA, but I know that much. And what they're looking at, you're using the term changing their lives. That's real audacious, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, oh, we're changing the world through SaaS technology. Is it changing the world? Probably, but is it going to have the impact like solving hunger crisis? No. So changing their lives may be too far up here. But if their challenge is, I'm making this money, but I'm still not seeing as much, I could be seeing more of a profit. Did you know these funds are available that you can get simply by applying for them? Now you're changing their lives in that moment, because they're like, wait a second, free money? And I don't have to sell anything?
Yeah,
that goes
it's free
directly
money
to their bottom line. Yeah,
it's
it goes
free money,
directly
but
to their bottom
the
line.
issue is that it lapses on a retrospective period every 2 financial years.
Right. So
this
obviously, to continue to get that money, you need a partner like Lawrence Kelly.
Yeah.
For every 2 years, he's going to be knocking on your door, making sure you're getting the free money. But the free money aspect is what's important, not changing their lives. Changing their business by giving them free money that they don't have to pay for, and they get it every 2 years.
You can get it every year, but the limitation
every year
is
I'm sorry.
2 years. Yeah.
Got it. But if they could get free money even for that 2 years, and you're showing them how to do it, that goes directly to their bottom line, and they didn't have to do anything with the top line.
Yeah. It's claiming state aid that is not taxable as well, which is
But you're thinking in terms of the service and benefit, and you're trying to attach it to them with the idea of changing their life. Really, what you're doing is giving them free money for their business. Just come out and say it. You don't need to worry about life changing or anything like that. What they're thinking about is, oh, awesome, free money. That's how all of them are going to look at it, as free money. So just start there.
Thanks, Mike. I'm looking for a couple more volunteers. Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Unmute. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Paul.
Good to meet you. You as
well.
Okay, so if I sum up what I do, Well, I'll see if it rings with you. I use a little strapline. I say helping business owners achieve their dreams.
Okay.
That's basically because I go in and help people who've got small growing businesses to get up to the next level, wherever they want to get to. They want to get much, much bigger. They maybe want to sell the business in a few years' time, or they want to acquire. So I do it in a very practical way. I go in, I've done a lot of things as an interim in the past, so I can go in and actually work alongside them and do whatever they need to. Whether that's enough, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit too vague. Do you think?
Well, again, it starts from the same place. Like I'm just pointing this out. Think about the similarity of what you said and what Lawrence said.
Yeah.
But you both do different things. So that becomes a check. It's about over promising and under delivering. Not that you under deliver, it's their expectations of what you set up, right? So if achieving their dreams, let's use the example of, I've seen this 1,000 times in my career. In my time working at Hasbro Toys and Games, I worked on brands like Transformers and Jurassic World and Monopoly, all these great games. And what we consistently would run into is this communication gap with whoever we're talking to, where they would come up, or I'm sorry, whoever's talking to us, somebody's presenting. The first thing out of their mouth every single time is, my name is Mike, and I'm so excited today to tell you about this. And the second you throw that out there, you need to realize that your audience's expectation of excitement is what you're speaking to, not yours. I don't care what you look like when you're excited. If you're going to say that you're excited, it better meet my expectations of excited. And if the next thing out of your mouth is, so today we're going to talk about corporate HR policies or whatever it is, there's no way in hell I'm excited about that. But you've tried to set my expectations saying, I'm really excited to be here. It's disingenuous. It doesn't come across as, it's not, any way to introduce yourself to the crowd, because you're saying something that could very well not be true for that audience. And it sounds benign, but it's true. It actually works this way. If you come out and say, I could change your life, and then say, we're just going to reorganize or run your business more effectively so you can get where you want to go, is that life changing? Those types of things we have to take into consideration. Paul, in your instance, it's not unlike what we were talking about with the Sherpa, right? It's a question of them being stuck because they don't know how to get to that next spot, but they want to. They have the drive, but their confidence is shaken a bit because they don't know what they don't know. And what they need is that outside, okay, look, you're going through things that I've gone through. Wouldn't it be easier if you had somebody along the way who has done this before? Is the sentiment that you want to get across. The output is dream achieving. The benefit is you can reach your vision, but you can't do it without understanding these things in your business and without organizing in a certain way or solving problems of this type. That's where the challenge comes. That's where the challenge comes for all of us. We don't know what we don't know. And we could try to muscle through, we could try to power through. A lot of times we listen to what other people are saying and we say, okay, I'll just do that. How many people have had someone say to them, you should do this, you should try this. I did this and it worked. And you immediately start looking into it because it's your business and you're looking for ideas and ways to move forward. So Paul, the people that you're working with are dealing with that exact situation. They know where they want to go. They're here, their vision is here, but it's not a straight line. It is stepping stones to get to that vision. And your job is to show them those stepping stones and how to avoid the slippery ones.
Good. Thank you. That's
Is that
very
helpful?
Yeah, very
Good,
helpful.
good, good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else? One last one?
I'll have a go. So that's okay.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm fine. Good. Thank you. Yeah, so I run a fintech company that specializes in regulatory compliance. So I guess the pitch would be that what we do is we enable financial institutions to meet their regulatory compliance obligations and deal with the vast volume of regulatory change. That's kind of what we have a solution to help them do that.
So a very simple play for you is pitfalls. landmines, all of the things that regulatory is a different language. It's like an attorney speaks a different language than anybody else because they have to. They are what you would call translation experts. It doesn't matter what you think, how you feel. This book says this, and my job is to interpret it and argue it. You know, it's not really, there's no way around it. Regulatory is the same way. It's bureaucratic, it's government, it is a bunch of people making decisions for the better of everybody else. And it is rife with traps and trips and pitfalls. And ultimately, what you want to do is not talk about how you're going to like do these things, but what happens if you don't. The regulatory world is almost incomprehensible to a business. They don't know any of that stuff, nor should they. It's not part of how they're thinking. And it can be incredibly overwhelming to a business too. Yep. And if they hit those traps, if they step in one of those, you know, those snares, that's not good. That's going to slow them down 6 weeks in their development, maybe, or it's going to shut them down or make them start over. But those are the things that you want to be pointing out to people. The regulatory just bear traps and avoiding them. So think in terms of if they're walking down a trail in the forest, that trail is going to have its obstacles. Yes, they think they're going the right way because they can see the trail, but there's a bunch of things that can happen. And that's the idea you want to align them to. Yeah. Fear.
Yeah. Well, the banks are often getting fined, and to us, it sounds like a big sum, you know, $250 million fines and stuff. But it's getting tougher for them because there's more regulation all the time. So yeah,
250 million once is nothing to them, but 250 million
regularly
10 times becomes a serious problem for stockholders.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what you're playing in, this world of danger. There's snakes, there's there's badgers, there's holes that, you know, like just sinkholes, like all of these things that could go wrong is what you want to immediately draw their attention to.
Okay, and so when we're saying what we do, that's what we put in that statement of pit.
Avoid the pitfalls of regulation. It'll kill your business.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's what I hear when you tell me what you do. Think of it that way.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Right. Sure. I think is that enough, or have we got time for one very quick one, Mike?
Have at it, Ollie.
And I think Jonathan put his hand up before. So
hello, Jonathan. You got a hell of a last name to live up to, homie.
Heavens, I'm not religious as well, sadly, but yeah. Cheers, mate.
It's a burden. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too, mate. So I'm the founder of TrustMix, and TrustMix is a UK property marketplace disrupting how investors and landlords find and crucially better assess who to do business with.
Okay, so give me an example of who to do business with.
So if you're a broker or an accountant or an estate agent, obviously there's US equivalent terms.
Yep.
So the full range.
By the way, I appreciate that. Thank you. You don't have to make that concession for me.
Real estate. Yeah. So all of the services that exist. So a bit like Angie's List, if you've heard of it in the US.
Got it. So this is people who want to get into real estate.
Yeah, it's property investors, property developers, landlords, and it's connecting them with the full range of services.
And are they new?
They might be new. They might be existing investors, and
they want to get into it or grow.
They want to get into it and grow, and it's a marketplace that connects. So like a bit like Fiverr. How I term it to people is it's a mix between Fiverr, Angie's List, Trustpilot. Yep.
So I love the idea of it, and the way you explain it is like the comparison that you use, that marketplace comparison of even Fiverr is great. I think their challenge is going to be, again, all of them are dealing with kind of the same stuff, right? Like we're all dealing with kind of the same stuff. We don't know what we don't know. what is the normal path for someone to go down in this process?
Yeah, so
Meaning, how would they normally go about it? Would they just go out and try and find, they need all these things and they just go out and try and line them up?
Yep. Yeah. So it's networking events, existing platforms that exist, LinkedIn. It's that whole process of people contacting and networking.
Yep.
And our USP, our secret sauce, is we've built a ratings algorithm, which takes into consideration recommendations, reviews, and aggregation of information, and helps you to better assess and differentiate who you want to do business with.
Got it. So getting into the business is not, I'm going to buy a house or I'm going to buy a building. It's 25 different things that have to happen, and all of them have gates. Meaning, let's go back to the regulatory conversation that Wendy was talking about. You don't get to just slap a house up and move into it. Let's use that as a simple example, right? You need to get permits. You need to get all of these things. You need to jump through hoops. You've got to go to meetings. You've got to get approvals, blah, blah, blah. All of that takes time. All of that is a grind to get into the real estate game, or even if you're already in it, all of these things that you have to do on a regular basis. What you want to position yourself as is essentially like the realtor's Wikipedia or the realtor's Google. Like they are the, I'm sorry, not the realtor, but like the property investors resource for all those things. Because what they're going to be left with is looking for all of them. Like, okay, I got this, I need to do this. I got this, I need to do this. I got this, I need to do this. If all of those answers are in one place and in one central hub, you're no longer networking. You're no longer spending time looking for those things. You're no longer asking for a referral for the right accountant.
Yeah.
Because now you've got a resource, a pool you can dip into and grab or fish in and take out whatever you need. And it's one stop. So one place for every transactional need for the real estate business is what you want to represent.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's by pointing out the fact that they're going to have to go out and network and go on LinkedIn and spend time finding all these things. And what if it's not quality? You've set your transaction back even further.
Yeah,
so if you can come to one place and get trusted reviews and feedback on these individual businesses and be able to contact them immediately through the platform, then that's the only place you're going to shop. To hell with networking and LinkedIn and making phone calls. It's simplicity for you, Jonathan. It's you don't have to hunt for all these things if we've already bought them and put them in the store for you.
Exactly.
You're the property oracle, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's not go too far on that, Ollie, because then people are going to go after the bad investment decisions they make. But Jonathan said it would work out.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Yeah, no, fair point. Well, cheers, Mike. Appreciate it, legend.
Brilliant, Mike. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I hope I made sense throughout the whole thing. It is early, but typically I say the same thing over and over again. So I'm hoping it's the same.
No,
but if any of you ever want to connect on LinkedIn, my name, Mike Verret, Verret and Associates. Love to meet you guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, you've been brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. And